In the maze of history, revolution emerged as bold strokes on the canvas of human endeavor, fueled by aspirations for justice, freedom, and a brighter tomorrow. Yet, as we navigate the corridors of time, we come to witness the puzzling dance of revolutions, each a reflection of the human spirit's unyielding quest for change and the relentless pursuit of a utopian vision. Why did the passion of change once ablaze falter in its pursuit?
Very substantial number of people in our country had decided that the time had come to fight back, that there was no more point in running and
I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Welcome. In this contemplative episode of Resilience of the Spice Isle, we are taken on a philosophical journey to unravel the spirit of the revolution, to understand the dreams that ignited the flame and the shadows that cast it into the chasm of disappointment. Political scientist Dr. George Bell leads this critical examination of the revolution, exploring its many nuances. In a thought-provoking analysis, he contrasts Grenada's revolution with the historical context of the Russian Revolution. Dr. Bell presents a compelling argument, asserting that the ultimate downfall of the revolution in Grenada was rooted in the loss of its humanity. By critically assessing the course of events and ideological shift, he sheds light on the complexities and challenges that the revolution faced, offering viewers a deep understanding of the factors that shaped Grenada's unique historical narrative. Well, the scene is set in the early 1980s. You are on the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, where Dr. George Bell is a lecturer.
We heard that the Deputy Prime Minister, People's Revolutionary Government, is coming to give a lecture at the Mona campus. It was Bernard Court. Then I see Bernard Court now as a political leader of Grenada, the revolution. And he gives this lecture. I remember at the time the place was packed, the lecture hall was packed. It wasn't a big lecture hall, they were using one of the arts lecture theatre halls that are flat. So a really lecture room. But it was packed, so they had a fair amount of people there. And I was listening from outside. I was more or less like just keeping cool by walking up and down and listening to what he was saying. And I was a bit concerned about some of the things that he was saying. I have no doubt about how genuine he was in relation to commitment to this transformation and all that kind of thing. But the lectures had a bit of hubris in it. That here was this, if I want to be insulted, this small island man come to Jamaica, big island, talking about he make a revolution in Grenada and that they can build socialism. And I did not understand that connection. Because I did not see how a country the size of Grenada and as underdeveloped as Grenada could build socialism. If you're going to real strict Marxist categories, the theory, and since he's a Marxist, I can keep him to that, hold him to that. There was a big debate in Europe at the time of the Russian Revolution between Lenin and Rosa Luxemburg, in which the argument was that Lenin had more or less forced the revolution on Russia. But Russia wasn't developed enough to carry no socialist revolution, because Russia was a backward capitalist country. In fact, it had more or less feudal features with the peasantry. The peasantry was a larger class than the proletariat, this class that Marx talked about as making the revolution, which essentially, if you go to the strict definition of what the proletariat is, it is an industrial working class. So it isn't even a ordinary working class, like retail and that kind of thing. It is an industrial working class fellas that into industry, I could see the extent of exploitation of their production and where the surplus going and all that kind of thing. Fellas that could understand that. And those were the people that were going to transform society and on the basis of a strong economy build socialism. So you had this big disagreement between Luxemburg, Rosa Luxemburg, and Lenin, where she said that Lenin had used the party, that is the Bolshevik party, which became the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, to force socialism on the Russian people. And that could only end in disaster. That what you had to have was, she was in Germany, she was a German revolutionary, Marxist revolutionary. That what you had to have was an industrial economy like Germany, which had the experience of struggling with democratic processes, and an enlightened working class coming out of that process and dynamic, which could understand the necessity of going beyond democracy. Like Trotsky eventually said that you cannot build socialism in one country, that it had to be an international revolution. And on the basis of the international revolution, that is how the transformation of human society would take place. Other than that, you're going to end up in a pernicious condition. And that he predicted, therefore, the Soviet Union condition under Stalin. He never disputed Lenin, but he said that under Stalin it would end in a dangerous condition. And Sierra James says a similar thing to that as well. But that is how Stalin built the Soviet Union, socialism in one country, and then it became the model for Europe and for the world. That we are the revolutionaries that succeeded. We overthrew the Tsar, we overthrew the Kerensky provisional government, we established a socialist government, and we started to build socialism. And that was important. They said they were building socialism. And up to the 1970s, the Soviet Union was saying that they had completed the construction of socialism and were now proceeding to build communism. So here was Bernard Coard saying that they were going to build socialism in Grenada. So I never bought that. I think that was impossible. I might have heard slightly wrong or something. So if somebody challenges me on that, he said that, okay, I don't have the problem. I can withdraw. But that is what I picked up in terms of the whole presentation I heard at Mona, that here Grenada was going ahead to build this socialism. I didn't see what basis they were to do that. And later on, they did theoretically argue that they were not building socialism, that they were pursuing the non-capitalist path of development. So they conceded that they can build socialism, and they created almost a new category, some of the Soviet theoreticians, for countries like Grenada, in which they said these countries, and some of them, they included some of the African countries as well that were taking a revolutionary route, building a non-capitalist path of development. But in relation to the global movement, they were saying that 1/3 of the world had become socialist. And I can tell you that in the 70s, our personal feeling was that the whole world was going to become socialist, and that you could not reverse a socialist revolution. Any revolution that was led by Marxist revolutionaries and succeeded was irreversible. But that was going to be blown out of the water in 1983, when the United States went in and mashed up Grenada. Okay? And notice that from 1983 through the 80s, what you get then is in the middle of the 80s, you get perestroika and glasnost being preached in the Soviet Union by Gorbachev. And by 1991, the Soviet Union has crashed. So we would not have known at the time that we were living on the threshold of a change in worldview. And the Grenadian Revolution was happening at a point of the change in worldview. We did not know. Barra lost the election in 1976. Mali went into crisis, won in 72, declared democratic socialism, and then went into crisis by the end of the 70s. By 80, there's civil war in Jamaica. 800 people got killed in the election, the 1980 election in Jamaica. Monroe is forming his party at this very same time. My brother is involved in Manali here. The Grenada Revolution is being formed. At the same time, the world is ready to crack and change direction. Okay? So here you have this revolution trying to take place in the context of a world revolution that is happening in parts of Africa and everywhere. And the Soviet Union itself, the theoreticians of the Soviet Union are saying non-capitalist path for development. And they eventually accept that. And they used to be quoting this little pamphlet that was written by somebody called Brutens, Brutents, non-capitalist path for development. I think that was what was to get thrown in or something. But it used to be everybody, Brutens, quoting Brutens. So I believe that the Grenada Revolution would have had a problem there in relation to establishing itself. Now, what we saw was that you would go there and to say that is what you build in for socialism. You know, we were doing a lot of things under capitalism in Barbados that were better than that in relation to manufacturing, in relation to housing. You know, but they were doing the best and they were coming out of a bad situation. So they didn't have genuine desire to do well. But I think that Grenada didn't have the economic foundation to carry the thing forward. There are some people that have written to suggest that, you know, that the economy was operating all right at that time. I think Meek says G.K. Lewis argued that. He was Gordon Lewis. And that the side that was against Bishop put up a critique to suggest that that there was problems, although that seems kind of contradictory because thing was the Minister of Finance, Cord, so that he would have been saying that his policies are succeeding. They said he had a good relationship with the IMF. There are some people that said I had 2 sets of books, and that they learned that from the Cubans. You know, that might be just a propaganda thing, but he's saying it anyhow for context, that the Cubans keep 2 sets of books, and that they taught the Grenadians to keep 2 sets of books, and they would give the IMF the good books. So the IMF would think that they got good economy. But in any event, what we know on the ground, what I experienced by the time I got back to Barbados, I get back to Barbados in 1980, and the guys tell me that they want me to join Manali and come into the leadership. So the leadership in a left organization like that is Central Committee Political Bureau. So I'm put on the Central Committee of the Political Bureau of Manali, which is led by my brother, Francis. He's my younger brother. We're just bring a bit of little school talk, you know. I go into this group. Most of them are Commonwealthians. I am Arizonian. I believe there was a bit of suspicion of me as a Arizonian going in there and looking like if I was a potential leader. Okay? They used to have meetings on Sunday mornings in that place there opposite to where the NCF is, you know that housing area there? Every Sunday, the political bureau will meet in there, okay? So, we'll see police car pass and some microphone kind of pushing through the window. We used to have a radio on to try to confuse them. So, I don't know if it used to work or not, but that's what we were told to do. You turn on a radio, and when they're trying to hear you, they can't hear properly. But they used to pass circling with these microphones to see what we're talking about. They searched my brother's house on one occasion. I know what we were looking for. Took a whole lot of magazines and things, okay? But what we know now is that there's a trade unionist down in Grenada, Chester, Humphrey or something like that, that he was charged with smuggling guns into Grenada in barrels of grease. So I don't know if the police were thinking that we were into linkages like that, okay? But I certainly didn't know these fellas. Francis and them knew them, but they didn't. I didn't know them. But what I saw after the revolution, I saw people coming up here who were sent on government missions without subsistence. Some of them fainted because everybody wanted to work hard, and they got no food. They come in to get food off you, live off you, but you ask yourself food, and so on. Don't have any money. And these are people that sent on government missions. A year before the revolution collapsed, I went down to Grenada by invitation to go to a conference. And that was the only time that I was in Grenada during the revolution. So I used to hear indirectly about what was going on down there through these fellas that knew these other guys. When I went down there, they carried us to a meeting, and I was disappointed with the turnout at the meeting. I thought that would be a bigger crowd. But also, in the hills, I don't know if it was a show or if they were being serious. I saw people like cadets up in the hills with what we at school in our army used to call carbines. You know, the carbines are so old that they could blow up in your face. Okay? And I mean, even the 22s that we used to shoot on the range where we would be in better condition than them. We used to have ours in college in our armory. We had 303s without bullets, so that you can fire them, right? But you could fire the 22s on the range. I used to be on the range every week and for Saturdays and things, shooting. But here was these little boys up in the hills with carbines, little carbines, and I said, okay, well, they can stop, they can even stop a pig. And then on the road now, a lot of fellas driving about in trucks, all armed and thing, that's the People's Revolutionary Army. I don't want to ridicule them. I think you should have respect for people that make that kind of effort and the sacrifices that they make. So I ain't saying that to make fun of them. I just say that to give you a picture of what I saw. Then we went to a reception. And by that time I did not know the literature has come up talking about what was going on at that time. By that time, Bernard Ford had been removed from the political bureau and the central committee of the People's Revolutionary Government, the Neutral Movement, which is part of the party. Or he had taken himself off because they were under pressure. And I saw a set of fellows who, some of them are the ones that I gather were the people that were in the military and that kind of thing at the reception, together, and looking at Morris Bishop in a funny kind of way, because Morris was there smoking, and he had a big set of pretty women around him. And he was having a good time, although he wasn't showing. He was a kind of fellow, very stoic looking. Okay? So not that he looking like if he having a great time or anything like that, but obviously the people are glad to be in his company. I was wondering how many of them were CIA agents, I think. Okay, I mean, how you could trust all them people. But anyway, that just passed through my head. Earl Lovelace, who was the Trinidadian novelist, he was at the conference. And he made a comment about these liaison people that would have attached to it. Because you do it in Cuba, Nicaragua, anywhere where he went to. Left-wing conferences to appoint liaison people to support you, And the Grenadian people had appointed these, mainly women, to be our liaison. And Earl Lovelace looked at them one night and said, wait, tell me something. Y'all be here in the morning early. Y'all be here with us all day. Y'all be here late at night. Y'all don't get tired. If you continue this, you can get a revolutionary heart attack. That's what he said. When I read the literature now on what was going on in Grenada, one of the biggest problems, more than anything but any division between Bishop and Court, is the pressure that was on the party members. First of all, the party was small. And this party is so small, it's seeking to carry out these big changes. They're exhausting. Too much work. A lot of the women had started to complain to say that they ain't got enough time with the families, that they can't look after the children properly. And the response from comments from Mix again, very respectful looking in terms of that. He was a contemporary of mine, but I know that he's a Marxist. He went on there to work with the revolution. When the revolution, he's a Jamaican, he went on there to work with the revolution as a civil servant. And he said, and the literature by other people confirm it too, that the people were exhausted, and part of the discussions that were going on in the Central Committee was how you deal with this. And they came to more or less agreement, greater Leninist discipline. So you're going to respond to a set of people that are exhausted by saying they're going to work harder. And if they work harder, the party would do better. That only further exhaust them. I believe that a number of them were suffering from depression, from breakdowns, all kind of things, by burnout, all kind of things by the time the revolution went down. That's physically, humanly not possible. And it is this, when you get too carried away with ideology and you forget that you're dealing with human beings, this is what can happen. And I often have to caution people when in relation to that you are dealing with a human being, you're dealing with a machine. So no matter how eager you are about this goal of revolution and all that, remember that you're dealing with a human being and you've only got so much energy, you have to eat so much food, you gotta get so much sleep and so on, you gotta have relaxation, you gotta have leisure, you gotta have exercise and so on. Like, these things are critical to your survival. And if you don't do that, what is going to happen is that you're going to humanly collapse. That's what's going to happen. And in a sense, you're contradicting the whole process of what you're about, because there's no humanity there anymore. You lost your humanity by being pushed by ideology. So that ideology helps you to explain to somebody else who doesn't understand certain things. It helps to mobilize. It can help morale. But you don't get also involved in it in terms of believing everything about it, that it kind of control your life. Of course, this happens in religion, you know, as well. And but just that the religion don't push you into those extremes. I mean, honestly, I want to say, you know, right, where you end up killing people and so on. So you always got to be careful with it. When ideology is starting to drive your body and the self to that extent. Now, I was down there at that conference. I had that's 19 early 80s, so therefore my first child, my daughter, and my wife, who died, you know, she had breast cancer, died at 41. I decided I'm going down to Grenada. I told them I got a young family and I want to get back after I present my paper. So I say, yeah man, no problem, I'll come down. So I go down, deliver my paper, and they say, well, I want to get back up to Barbados because my family expecting me to get back up. And I said, no, you can't go back up. You can't go back up and the revolution release you. So I down there trapped, vexed and things. So that they do this to me. I don't want to call to me names, but one of the people that was really walking about with a lot of authoritarian utterances was George Lamond. And I respect George Lamond again too, right? But in that context, when I saw him in that context, in that milieu, he was very authoritarian. So Don Ross, who was the more or less a communications man, he told me that I can't get on the plane. I cannot go back to Barbados. I gotta wait. When the thing was going on with Morris Bishop, when the fight was going on between the army and the people in the barrack, he led a group of people armed to the headquarters of the telephone company to cut all the lines to the CC, to the Central Committee leadership of the party. You take that for whatever it's worth. That's a year before the thing collapsed, and I think the signs were there that they were in crisis. And it was not a crisis of ideology, other than to say that they were seeking to impose greater Leninist discipline when the party could not bear it. Because it had reached a point of being not humanly possible to proceed in that way anymore. That they should first of all have opened up. Then I can just say this because it might not be practical to do these things, but you open up the membership to get more resources, and you start to make some compromises and so on in terms of policy and programs. And but I don't think that the people that were against them would have been prepared to compromise with it. See, so what happens then is that you get this trap that because you took certain radical positions, you get pushed up against the wall. So now you got to defend yourself. So it's a serious problem that is developing there, and people have to have that kind of understanding then of what is going on. So again, Meeks is very clear on this, that there's no divide ideologically between Cord and Bishop. Both of them are Marxists to whatever extent they are Marxists. They came out of the same formation. The Black Power Marxist thing that developed in the Caribbean after the failure of the Trinidad 1970 revolution, when the Black Power thing in Trinidad, when it failed, an analysis came through to say that they had not sufficiently linked to the working class, and they were not sufficiently theoretically rigorous. So that here where a number of people know what we're saying, you got to push some of that Black Power side, and Marxism gives you this rigor. And not everybody in Trinidad went that way, but some went. And you, in a sense, you were now joining back up with a set of Marxists that were there before World War II. You see, the people like James and George Padmore and all them old fellows that were Marxists a long time. But they did not go through that experience of the younger people who would have seen independence, seen neocolonialism, and experienced Black Power, and then were exposed to Marxism, a different formation. So just as I'm telling you that the millennial people now have this different formation in their mind from somebody like me, even though I can communicate with them, you have those differences. I suppose that if you live long enough, you see these changes. My father looked at me. I didn't stand a big ideological battles with him, but he looked at me very casually one day and said, "Soviet Union gonna collapse." This years before it happened. That's even soon after he came out of Barbados. Okay? That 9 years before it happened, that's 10 years. But he was convinced, he heard me with his left wing talk, convinced that, he saw Hitler collapse. He saw fascism collapse. He lived through that. He just saw this system, be big and talking big. It'll collapse like anything else. They gonna last. So that's how he said it. I didn't believe him then. But I didn't quarrel with him. I argue with him. I just went my way.
And neither will this series argue with the retired Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences of the Cavell campus of the University of the West Indies, the esteemed political scientist Dr. George Bell, who is well placed to put Grenada's revolution squarely in perspective. Thank you very much, Dr. George Bell. The series continues next week at the same time. I'm Sherwood McCaskey.